Hello once again. Today's video is a follow-up to the last one where I showed you how you can target and interact with NPCs using your keyboard instead of the mouse and clicks. It's about how you can disable player models when you try to get the sunflower, because the last trick doesn't work for it because you can't target the flower. This macro only works for player models. It doesn't work, unfortunately, for shapeshifted druids, mounts, or hunter pets. And I also want to mention that this only works for WoW Classic, not for the retail version. At least not in the same way and as good as it does in Classic. This video will be done in 3 parts. The first part is showing it off in action. The second part is showing the code and explaining it a little bit. And the third part is about further resources if you wanna dig in it a little bit yourself. I also want to mention, please, for the love of God, never just use any old macro or WGR you have found on some greasy website without actually checking it first. You know why. Now let's have a look at it. I'm currently at PvP. As you can see, not that busy. Let's just pretend for this example there are like 1,000 people here. The client lags a little bit because it tries to actually load the textures again, but of course, because of our macro, it isn't able to do that for the play models. Using it again enables them. You can also use this macro if you're in a big city and you have a rather shitty computer like I have myself. It's pretty old by now. And as you can see, I'm barely scratching 40 frames per second. It's not too bad, but on my laptop, for example, I'm probably at the 1-digit frame per second range. And if I execute this macro, you can see after a slight lag, I'm more than easily reaching the 60 frames per second. This is because the GPU has a lot less models to render actually. By the way, this actually only affects your client, your view, so please don't try to enable this macro inside the battleground and trying to sneak somewhere. It doesn't work out like that. Now let's have a look at the macro itself. For the sake of simplicity, I formatted the code a little bit. In the game, the macro itself, when you store it, it has to be a single line, otherwise it won't work. This macro basically only sets 2 console variables to work. The first one is componentTexLoadLimit, and according to documentation, it's for character component texture loading limit per frame. And the second variable is graphicsTextureResolution. This actually is only necessary so that if you change it, the game tries to reload the textures of the player models using the new texture resolution and also using the texture load limit. If we set this value to 0, the game isn't able to actually load textures onto the play models and thus disabling them, visually at least. We have here this little if statement. It checks if this text load limit currently is 0. If this is the case, then it sets the variables back to 6 and 2. If it's not, then to 0 and 1. So this means basically the first time you run this macro, it's setting the variables to 0 and 1. The second time, now we have 0 in here, and it runs into the first path and resetting the variables to the default values. Now to the third part, further resources and whatever. First off, I want to say a big thank you to the user Academic Chip on Reddit, who actually provided the macro itself, of course with a little twist. At least he tried to sneak this one in. And also thank you to the user Elvenbane on the official forums for letting me know that there is an add-on called Advanced Interface Options which lets you browse in-game the available console variables. That's it for now. Maybe we are together able to solve the last step as well about the shapeshifting druids, the mounts, and also the hunter and warlock pets. Yes, warlock pets are also an exception to this rule. I forgot to mention that in the first part. If you manage to do this, it would be really great, because this would mean an end for this no-lifing griefers standing on top of the flower. It would be really, really awesome. Maybe you know someone who is more knowledgeable about the API than me, who has a clue how we can solve it. Yeah. Wish you best of luck and have a nice one.